Okay, there we go. Sorry.
All right, so we've started recording. We don't have quorum quite yet, which was to be expected. So Katie Myers is going to join us a couple minutes behind. But since that's the case, we can't conduct business quite yet. So why don't we go ahead and do any chair report items that you wanted to discuss, and we can do staff report too, since that doesn't need a quorum.
All right, well, with that, we'll chair's report. Didn't a whole lot planned, but I will thank everybody for being here that's here tonight. And that's been a kind of a busy month, I guess. With that, I mean, we'd be able to touch on the AUG at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
No problem. So what we have in the chair's report is about the Barcroft Advisory Working Group update, and Joan Lawrence and Dick Woodruff have been representing the HALRB at these different meetings that have been happening since February. And we'll have, I think, their last one in May. So the last one that happened though was on April 1st, and this meeting focused on the public open space and natural areas in the Barcroft apartment complex, specifically focusing on tree canopy, natural resources, and planned parks. Joan Lawrence was there in attendance in the meeting, and during these meetings, usually how it goes is staff will provide their own presentation about those specific topics, and then the Gerald Lynch project team will talk even more about what they're proposing, and then there's a bit of a discussion between the different AUG members. And so staff provided their policy overview for Barcroft concerning the spaces and natural areas, and there was a lot. Columbia Pike Revitalization Plan, the Neighborhoods Area Plan, the Stormwater Master Plan, the Public Spaces Master Plan, the Public Art Master Plan, and the Forestry and Natural Resources Plan. So all of these things need to kind of coincide with what is identified in the form-based code. We kind of have to jive together or realize if there's any conflict, how can they achieve all the goals that the county wants. So that's kind of the general overview that staff provided during that. And some of the things that for the future public spaces, the Gerald Lynch project team is proposing 2 new public spaces, each being relocated and reconfigured from the previously envisioned locations that were identified in the form-based code documents. And then staff kind of gave a little bit of their input to what their thoughts on these 2 new public spaces are going to be. They see these areas as being a little bit constrained by the future building footprints that's being proposed by the Barcroft project team, especially concerning the scale of future redevelopment. Staff sees these 2 public spaces should actually be considered for expansion. Staff also believes that the area should be easily accessed and should be integrated with adjacent public trails. And then they also talked about tree canopy. So staff thinks that they know that the Barcroft goal is to have 40% tree canopy, which they believe can be achieved through conserving existing trees and planting of trees in the redeveloped areas on site, along the streets, and on structure. So really a creative approach to trying to reach that tree canopy goal. Much of the discussion from the advisory working group focused on understanding how the project team is going to achieve that tree canopy goals and how the new public spaces, how will the public spaces serve the existing community, the surrounding community, the new residents, just trying to kind of get an understanding of how it's going to work, which is a lot of the same conversation that goes to where any of the redevelopment is being proposed. Who is this for? Is it feeling integrated with the existing architecture to what the new architecture is going to be, and just trying to make sure that everything blends well, works well. Joan made sure to point out the importance of the Barcroft Apartments environmental setting and how the trees, the open spaces, and pedestrian circulation help support the complex's historic significance. And that she just wants to make sure that the project team takes that into consideration when they're proposing to make alterations to those areas. So it was a good meeting and good summary, not too many major issues. And the next meeting will be on April 22nd. That will involve urban design, which we'll talk about anywhere from the massing and density, as well as transitions between new buildings and existing, and also talk about
There's a couple in May, right?
April 22nd, and I can't remember the next AUG committee meeting. I want to say it's on the 17th of May, but there is an open house happening, I believe, on May 4th. It was set for April 27th, but one of our Historic Preservation Fund grantees is having a public event at Barcroft where they're giving a tour of Barcroft. They mentioned that that was going to conflict with where the open house is. So the county scheduled brought into May. So, and the goal still, I believe, is in June, that staff and the Gerald team will have a presentation to the county board about how the public has been reacting to what they're planning.
Is the tree canopy now, is it more than 40% or less, or did anybody mention that?
I don't know.
Good question.
But it's very expensive. It's very
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah, it's kind of curious.
Well, now that we have formed, we want to battle in and start the meeting officially.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do the staff.
Thanks, everybody. Welcome to the HLB meeting for April 17, 2020. Please call the roll.
Omari Davis,
Here.
Dan Dreyer. Here. Robert Dudka is excused. Andrew Fackler is excused. Alex Foster. Carmela Ham.
Here.
Ray Handley is excused. Gerald Laporte is excused. Joan Lawrence is excused. Rebecca Meyer is excused. Katie Myers. Here. Mark Turnbull is excused. Andrew Winchell
Here.
and Dick Woodruff is excused. So we do have quorum with 5.
Thank you. That will move on to the explanation of the procedures. Again, welcome to this tonight's meeting. It's effective September 1st, 2022. New state legislation now requires certain county board appointed commissions, including HLB, to have in-person quorum to commence some HLB hearings are available both in a hybrid and in-person format online. Members of the public may attend, participate either virtually or in person. Members of the board and members of the public join us this evening. Please keep in mind that this meeting is available via stream via Microsoft Teams link on the county website. If board members, presenters, or speakers lose internet connectivity during tonight's meeting, please reconnect with us via phone. Keep your device muted and your video turned off until you are called on to speak. For public speakers not sponsoring items on the agenda, pre-registration to speak online at today's meeting was required. Speaker slips are available in the front of the room for those people in person who wish to speak. I'll need to speak after presentation of the agenda item. Meeting chat is active for participants who need technical assistance only and should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during this public testimony period. All voting will be done by a call roll. And lastly, tonight is public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted on the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. That will move on to the quick review and approval of the March meeting minutes. So with that, are there any comments or questions on the March meeting minutes?
I actually did have a comment or edit. Do you have what I said?
I did. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Probably more concise that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ms. Myers had said on page 10 that the correction should be, that there was a discussion about energy efficient windows. And she meant to say that, or she wants it to the record to be clear that we require wood windows over the most energy efficient option often. And that there's much more efficient windows you could do if you don't do wood windows. So she wanted to make that clear in the discussion. And then there was a typo where we forgot the S on the end of her name on page 11. So we're going to remedy that.
I wouldn't have added that if I didn't have the first comment.
Any other comments or questions about the minutes? I'm going to approve the March 2024 minutes with the amendments by staff verbally. Please call the roll.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Dreyer,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
yes,
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
and Mr. Winchell.
yes,
Okay, that's unanimous.
Moving right along. On the consent agenda, there is one item for discussion, or not for discussion, rather, one item on the consent agenda. For consent. Are there any comments or questions about the agenda? I'll give that the motion to approve.
I move to approve.
I'll second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Dreyer,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
yes,
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
and Mr. Winchell.
yes,
And unanimous.
Now on to our discussion item. 27, 25, 23rd Street. Neighborhood Historic District.
All right, I will give the staff presentation, and I just want to point out that we do have the applicant here in the room with us. Actually, if you all want to introduce yourselves very quickly for everybody.
We're Brian and Lisa Coe, the homeowners.
John McKenna and Alex Centeno with architects.
So the pre-1916 house at 2725 23rd Road North is a contributing dwelling to the Maywood Local Historic District. It is situated at the end of 23rd Road North and at the edge of the Maywood Local Historic District boundary. There are no neighboring houses to the east and south of the property, and the closest neighboring house is situated to the west, a non-contributing dwelling at 2729 at 23rd Road North. Thrifton Hill Park, a public park, surrounds the house to the southeast and portions of the north. According to Historic Preservation Program records, no COAs have been applied for or completed at this property. So I did want to point out a couple things before I continue, and just show you all the site plan. So this is existing. You can see where the property line is, and this is what is being proposed. So we can come back to this, but I also wanted to share some context photos that I thought might be helpful to help orient everybody in case you haven't been to this part of Maywood. So a lot of these, and actually, a lot of these are taken from like this roadway right here, which is 23rd Road North. There's a small turnaround here at the end where the park is located. So that's where most of these photos are taken, to situate everybody. But this is standing there at the edge of the park looking at the property. That's the rest of 23rd Road North. This is the view from the house directly across the street and our brand new HP car. And more views of the house that's direct looking at it. These are the neighboring properties. More views from across the street and the park edge. And that is the contributing neighboring house. Non-contributing.
Makes sense.
And then you can see the house peeking through the vegetation there, and that's about as close as the properties are to each other. And then that is a full shot of where the garage is located in relation to the house. So as you can see from the photos, there are no houses located over on this side. In addition to there being a house, the property also includes a detached garage. The Maywood National Register nomination gives a construction date of 1936 for the garage and notes it as a contributing historic resource. The source of this date is attributed to a map, likely the 1936 Sanborn Fire Insurance map of Arlington County, which shows the house with a detached garage. However, recent research by staff indicates that the present-day garage was most likely constructed in 1983. Documentary evidence in the form of early county permit records and a brief field survey of the garage in April 2024 support this new construction date. It is for this reason that staff believes the current garage to be non-historic and no longer contributing to the Maywood LHD or the National Register District. So the applicant is proposing to construct a two-story rear and side addition to the existing house that would connect it with the existing detached non-historic garage. The construction would require the partial demolition of about 1/3 of the rear of the existing house, the partial demolition of the rear portion of the existing garage, and the partial demolition of the existing rear patio space. To construct the addition, the applicant would also need to remove a healthy Japanese cryptomeria tree, which is situated directly behind the garage. For more images, I'll come back to those. You can see the tree located right there. The proposed addition features a two-story side gabled roof hyphen that would connect the existing house to a larger two-story front gabled side addition over top of the existing garage. A secondary entrance featuring a half-glazed wood door and wood entry stairs and deck would provide access to a first floor mudroom in the hyphen section. Siding throughout the addition would either be wood lap siding to match the siding on the existing house or smooth fiberboard cement siding to match the existing siding. All trim would be PVC. Roof shingles on the addition would be architectural asphalt shingles. The garage would feature a new wood overhead door with a faux double door appearance. All windows would either be from the Anderson 400 vinyl clad wood window series or from the Pella wood window series. The rear elevation features a sliding glass wood door and a wood deck. So the DRC first considered this application as a preliminary review item at the March 6th, 2024 meeting. Questions about whether a rear-only addition had been explored were asked. The applicant noted significant grade issues and side yard setback restrictions as the reasoning behind why the design was oriented toward the side of the existing house. The DRC also had questions about scale and massing of the addition and suggestions for ways to help distinguish further between the old and the new. The DRC considered the application again at the April 3rd, 2024 meeting. The DRC's discussion largely focused on the various roof lines of the design and the proposed fenestration, and design suggestions were made for ways to simplify those elements of the design. The DRC placed the project on the discussion agenda for the April HALRB public hearing. I'll scroll to a few more while I read the rest of my slide. First, staff would like to thank the applicant for their hard work to implement the design changes recommended by the DRC and staff. Staff greatly appreciates the changes that have been made to the design since it was first brought forward. Staff's current primary concern remains the massing and scale of the addition to the existing house. The Maywood design guidelines state that a new addition should not be prominently visible from the street and should be located to the rear of the house if possible. It continues with additions should not be larger than and should be visually secondary to the original house. While staff understands how the lot limitations have influenced the project's design, staff feels that the design presented still has the potential to overwhelm the existing house and changes the directional expression of the original bungalow form of the house. Staff would support a decrease in size to the addition so that it reads as more secondary to the original house. With that being said, staff do find that the following elements are not adversely affected by this design: the front setback, the uniform spacing between houses in Maywood, the floor-to-floor heights, and the proportion and rhythm of the windows. Staff encourages the HALRB to discuss the scale and massing of the proposed addition to determine its appropriateness to the subject property and its surrounding context. Regarding materials, the proposed siding and trim meet the standards outlined in the Maywood design guidelines. The use of wood as the material for both the bedroom porch and rear deck is also appropriate per the guidelines. Staff also finds that the proposed design, dimension, and appearance of the windows for the addition to meet the intent outlined in Chapter 6, New Addition Building of the Maywood Design Guidelines. However, they encourage the HALRB to discuss the proposed materials for the windows. The applicant has two different window types proposed: a vinyl clad window or a wood window. Staff recommends the use of not clad in the addition because the Maywood design guidelines state that the use of vinyl or aluminum clad windows to be inappropriate in Maywood. Furthermore, recent side and rear addition projects in the LHD have exclusively proposed and were approved for wood windows. Finally, staff initially had reservations about the inclusion of the existing garage into the design in terms of the precedent that could set with LHD. However, given staff's research on the garage, we find the incorporation of it acceptable and see it as an innovative means by which to incorporate existing materials and fabric into a design. And that is the conclusion of the staff.
Applicants.
Yeah.
So please, if you have anything to add.
Nothing there? No, I think we tried to address the comments. We did have some discussion items with different opinion direction on how best to really work on the roof lines in particular. We continued with a further reduction of the hyphen to really emphasize the separation of the addition from the original structure. And we did bring back the front facing gable on the addition to sort of give a nod to the dormer on the primary structure, which is also tied into the garage. So we tried to take the architectural encouragement to heart. We went through quite a few iterations of this, and I think this is the most successful layout, keeping consistent. It doesn't look like a tacked on addition. This looks like a well thought out, but distinct addition to the existing structure.
Thank you. The DRC summary.
So, Alex,
Sure. We covered most of it, but just to summarize, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Looking at the rear and side extension for the residents, we agreed that the addition should be compatible with, but distinct from the existing structure. We felt that the applicant should consider reducing the height of the hyphen to provide a distinction between the historic building, the new addition, and we made suggestions to simplify the roof design and reduce the additional gables and start to align the eaves. We also recommended adjusting the spacing and proportion of the windows on the extension to better complement the existing architecture. It's like drafts.
Thank you. With that, it's now before the board. Any comments or questions?
Well, I'd like to add, this was, we usually don't recommend colors we're not supposed to or whatever. Did suggest that they, at least for the renderings and scheme, to differentiate color-wise the original house and the garage, and distinguish the addition by a change in the shade of the color. And they went darker, and I think that's appropriate. I appreciate that. I think they really good job of what we talked about. I think that I like it. I really do.
Question and maybe a comment. I ran by the other day. Will the front street driveway trees remain? So it's so beautiful right now at this time. So it's such a pretty piece of property. But I think too, when those trees are there, you actually won't need the addition very much. Which I had always had this preference, I think, for in the historic neighborhoods for the detached garages. But learned actually that's not in the design guidelines, but it just often kind of happened in the historic neighborhoods. And then I kind of did a little research, and it also seems to be a preference because then you can go closer to the setback. So I was wondering why that kind of was showing up more. So, but I think because there's the trees there, it'll often still give like the appearance of that, and you'll really see just the bungalow with how the driveway trees are. So yeah, I really think with how the landscaping is and everything that I actually am liking it more and more as I see it. So
Does anybody have any questions about the rear elevation?
I'd like to say that I think it's improved. I mean, I know we've spoken before sort of about the glazing on the rear. I think that this is still an improvement. I think it simplifies things a lot and really sort of, I mean, still gets you a lot of sort of glazing, sort of, take a look at that nice view in the backyard. I think that this formally it all works better. Yeah. I guess while we're on the windows too, though, I think I would though agree with staff, though. I think that wooden windows would be more appropriate for the addition, given sort of we've done sort of precedence essentially in the district. I think that most rear and side additions end up with wood windows. So I would be in favor of wood windows. For the
Anyone else have opinions about the window type?
What's going on with the lowest window on the right of the door? Is that a double height space or?
Oh, that's the stairwell. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I also always prefer wood windows.
I would agree that the woodedness of the lot does make a difference, and the fact that it slopes downward. You know, comparing the blueprint with the actual photographs. I was wondering, the staff report reference. Where can you show the plat map again? Is there a for that? Or?
So they don't necessarily have to like present a specific plan for where they will replant the tree
Okay.
as of yet. I am not a forester, but I would say that
There's lots of trees.
I would
Yeah.
say that probably not putting it anywhere like within the construction zone initially would be smart.
Yeah.
But there's no requirement that I'm aware of that it has to be within like the same area as the tree. It's kind of more about just replacing it 1-to-1, and it has to reach the same size, the existing tree and maturity. And so there's a whole list online with recommendations for those trees. And you can essentially put it anywhere on the property that you think is going to be successful for the tree.
Can you flip to the overall context?
The map.
Yes. I think that if you look at this house is really, the whole back of the house is an incredible distance from rear property line and side property lines. There's basically a public park there, so the structure, the rear addition, so forth, is just so far removed from the sideline to the hill park and the rear property line. I don't think it has any kind of real effect on the adjoining properties or the hill park. I think that's real virtue of this whole piece. I think it really respects its neighbors. And a good part of it is the neighbors are quite a ways from the additions. So it's an unusual lot. And to be that deep and so I think it has a lot going for it just because of the site plan.
I'd agree with that too. Site plan sort of really helps out to sort of minimize the addition. I mean, I think that the elevation actually just doesn't sort of do justice to how it will be perceived sort of real time essentially. Really, the pictures really give a better idea of that. So it's working definitely in the favor of the project.
Are there any other questions or comments about the scale and massing of the addition in relation? One other thing that staff wanted to ask about, because we thought of it after the staff report was posted, but the siding on the addition, it's either permissible what is being proposed, but I think from staff's perspective, we would advocate the use of hardy to help even further distinguish the addition to the original house, but we wanted to bring that up and see if there was concurrence with the HALRB.
So hard in addition and keep the wood out.
Yeah, keep what's there on the existing, hardy on the addition, and it would be smooth because that's what's permissible in the guidelines.
Right.
So the hyphen and the.
Andy, you were saying 2 on the color. I mean, is it gonna be 1 color or is it gonna be 2? Was that just for the schematic that it was 2 colors?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's what,
the distinction on the elevations there shows a faded away of the existing. Yeah.
okay. I mean, I like when things are different, if you can tell they're different and why they're different, but if they're so similar that it just kind of looks off. And I don't know if that would happen with the hardy versus the wood siding. I guess know the sidings well enough to know that. But if next to each other, they're gonna look a little odd. I don't know if I would recommend that either. But it's kind of hard to know with not seeing it.
Well, Yoni, could you flip to the rear elevation?
Yeah.
The only odd thing is the light blue corner. I know you turn the corner and that's the original, but I think it made the whole rear the same color. Fine, it just looks just a little too literate to what we were doing.
And the only reason there that lower first level that has the existing on the bottom right corner, the full first story is being maintained, but we have a different window size. We're actually reducing that height because that's where the kitchen location is. So everything for the original home would stay there, just a reduced window size. And in terms of the siding, there's this is actually the only budding location where we would have the 2 components together. So the infill of the siding here would actually touch wood siding if we were to use hardy. But in any case, we'd be able to match proportionally with the hardy. I don't think it'd be majorly noticeable, but we're happy to go whichever way everyone agrees.
I don't know, if it was my house, then it was a flat wall. And I wouldn't want 2 different kinds of siding meeting up, but I think, you know.
I agree. I think that's difficult to maintain long-term. I think structurally differentiate the masses, and you guys have done a great job with the roof lines. And just because, at least from the front, the addition for the most part is set back so far, having material doesn't strengthen the differentiation to me.
Yeah, I agree with what Alex said on that.
So is the board okay with them picking and choosing between the 2, or would you rather stipulate that it be wood to match the existing?
I think I'd leave that to the owner. I mean, to the
Okay.
applicant. I mean, it's a person.
Yeah, that's fine with me too.
I just wanted to be clear for them,
Yeah.
so they knew how to move forward.
I think the only real change for me really would be the speed, not change, rather, my only strong preference really would be for other than that. I think that I think that the massing and sort of siding are, are advantageous to the condition there. And it's working. I mean, I think I would have maybe like this, I've seen like a side gable on the addition as an option, but I think that's fine. Anything else? That, motion and then, no. Maybe a long, kind of a long motion.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Right, is that the two over the garage, is that the only window? Is it the 6/3? I'm not sure how to count this. The bottom one is just 1 by
Are you
3.
talking about this?
Is that
piece
the
right here?
only, yeah, those two, is that the only incidence? of those?
No, they're up here. too.
Yeah.
Why not just leave it 1? I'm just curious, is that the standard?
What do you
Oh, no,
mean?
Like 6/1, or is that 3/1? Is that like the
It's-
bottom leaf of it?
Oh, you mean bottom has grids?
Mhm.
Do you mean that the bottom has the
Okay,
grids too?
Yeah, we wanted to match more like.
Oh, I'm just curious why. I think, is that the only one?
Oh, I guess the top two does have grids all the way through.
Yeah.
Right
so
now,
it's like
the
a
top
3
leaf
over
has
3.
grids, but then the bottom one
We
doesn't
want
have
this to
grids.
just be single.
I'm just curious why. the
Oh, are
addition-
you thinking the dashed line, Alex, is grids on the top?
So it's
The mullions on
separated
the
to
bottom.
3
Yeah.
mullions.
Yeah, but there's
Tops for all of them, and then the bottom one on the addition is just 1 window. And then these, I guess, 4 have mullions on the bottom, you know, leaf or,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
dash, there you go. Is that for a specific reason?
Yeah, if we may, we
Yeah.
can add the elevation when we have an existing window that matches that. So those two cases there, that's essentially falling within that proportion.
Okay,
Okay, sure.
no strong opinions on it, I was just curious.
Good question, yeah. It does match those, I guess, it's existing there.
But they won't be casements in that section on the front.
Correct, we haven't proposed as double hungs, or sorry, single hungs, but we could alternate and go to casements there. Everything else on the house is single hung.
Sorry, they're casements on the original house.
I think I would prefer that. It's not up to me, it's up to you all.
So the smaller square windows on the original, you're saying are casement windows. They operate differently, but then you proposed the single hungs. Okay.
So on all of the single hung windows, the existing and the new, except for that proportion, the bottom sash has no mullions. That's the only one that we're introducing mullions for the bottom front sash. Seems inconsistent. Doesn't bother me, it's just different.
We'd be happy to switch that to a casement to match exactly to the historic element there. From an operability standpoint, it'd be more functional as well. It's a small opening piece here, so. we'd be happy to-
That's true. Yeah, I think that might make sense. And you said it'll functionally, it's also.
Mhm.
But anyway,
Are there any on the rear? Oh, no, because the rear has all 1/1.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So really, it's just those 2 elevations that change.
okay. Put that in here. Oh.
For revealing your masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So,
Did your homework.
yeah. I move that HALRB approved COA 24-09 at 27, 20, 25, 23rd Road North, Maywood Local Historic District. Request to build a rear and side addition to connect the house with the existing non-historic garage, provided that wood windows are provided, and that, that casement, 6-pane windows are provided on the new addition. If, yeah.
Instead of single.
Instead of, yeah.
Instead of.
Right,
single
yeah.
one.
That way it's contact.
Sorry.
All right, cool. So HLB finds that the home project complies with the with this section of interior standards for rehabilitation standard number 9, which permits, which pertains to new additions in the spirit of chapter 6, new additions / buildings of the Maywood Design Guides, because the addition is harmonious with the original house, differentiates between the old and new, and its massing and scale are appropriately secondary to the original house. Further, the addition is situated in the rear and side of the house, away from and less visible from the predominant public right-of-way. Compliant with the spirit of the Maywood Historic Design. Finally, the HLB finds project is appropriate because of the specific site constraints of this property, which necessitate the construction of the addition. Is in this movie. Last part again. Finally, the HLB finds that this project is appropriate because of the specific site constraints of this property, which necessitates the construction of the addition in this manner.
Maybe the second.
Also,
Please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Dreyer,
Yes.
Ms. Foster, Ms. Ham,
yes,
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
and Mr. Winchell.
yes.
yes,
That's unanimous.
I'll be in touch with you all with an email with your approval documents.
Thank you very
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate all of your time. I know we've taken quite a bit of it these last.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Maywood.
Yeah, there are a couple of administrative COAs on the agenda. And that we have information item on Barcroft section 7 and section.
Okay, I think we should invite our other staff member here to the table. Riley.
I did actually think.
Already wrong.
Missing.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So before I turn it over to Ms. Riley, we have 11 members here on the call from the Geraldine project team. I'm sure they'll assist with Lauren's presentation, but I do want to give a brief staff report. So bear with me. I tried to be short. So the Geraldine project team is here this evening to provide an update to both section 7 and section 1 rehabilitation project. During the section 7 rehabilitation project, the project team presented to the HLRB public hearing on March 20th. Specified in part 7 of the conservation area standards in the neighborhood form-based code, applicants need to meet with the HLRB a minimum of 2 times for the project can be considered by the county board. The project scope, which involved building 47 and 48 in section 7, includes an entire menu of rehabilitation activities that the HLRB is very familiar with, such as repairing architectural elements or replacing in kind. The larger scope items involved in this project include removing and replacing the aluminum double hung and casement windows with new aluminum windows to match the original design, creating outdoor amenity spaces and landscape improvements behind building 47, creating 2 accessible units in each building for a total of 4 units by creating new entry openings and windows. I should say total of 4 units, but it's being tacked on. The numbers make sense. And modifying an existing window well areaway near building 48 to provide an accessible entry. So there has been a change though to the scope for section 7. The Gerald project team contacted staff concerning an update to section 1 rehabilitation proposal for buildings 12 through 16. The HLRB reviewed this phase in January and February of 2024, and the use permit will be going to the May Planning Commission and County Board. So while developing the permit drawings, the project team discovered the need to add air duct vents to the front facades for each unit within the preserved buildings of section 1. You would need to do the same to section 7. The HB staff and the Gerald project team determined that these changes could not be made administratively and needed feedback by the HALRB. Previously, all such vent openings had been placed only on the backs of the buildings and has been somewhat of a focused topic of the HLRB discussion. So the proposed vents will be approximately the size of the horizontal side of a brick, such as the stretcher. They'll be painted to blend into the facade and placed strategically to help minimize any impacts to character defining building features. Staff considered the addition of new exhaust penetrations for both section 1 and section 7 as necessary to upgrade the residential units to new mechanical systems, including the installation of new washers and dryers in the unit. And although these penetrations do not follow the conservation area standards of the neighborhood form-based code, they will be a minimum change to the building's front and rear exteriors and will not affect the overall design of section 1 and 7 within the complex. So that is my brief staff report. Sorry if I took your thunder.
No, all good.
I know you can provide any more details
Yeah.
or answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hi, good evening, everyone. Lauren Riley with Walsh Colucci, represent Gyra Lynch, and I hope all of our team is here because I think this is the first time our item's been called on time. Exciting.
Yeah.
Right. So I hope nobody got too used to the delays. Okay, we've got most of our team here. So I'm about to hand it over to them to walk you through the changes that Lauren just mentioned. But essentially, the reason this is coming up so late in the process for section 1 is that our team had made a series of assumptions with this use permit drawing set that these buildings would be a lot like the previous buildings that we've done in terms of their mechanical layout. But it turns out that these buildings in section 1 and also in section 7 are a little bit different in the way that they're wired. Requires us to route ductwork through the front of the building, and we can go through, all the studies that they've done and what they've looked at. A combination of bulkheads is involved to try to minimize the extent of the penetrations to the front. So we have, looked at a variety of options and ways to try to mitigate it, but unfortunately, we are going to have to route some of those exhaust vents through the front facade, but we've got a good design and I think a good product that will blend in well with the front, as well as some precedent images too, from where you might see this already in some areas of Barcroft. So to reiterate what Lauren said, we're adding the scope of work to the section 1, buildings 12 through 16. So we'll add that modification request for the form-based code. And then we're also adding the scope of work to the section 7 renovations that we all talked about last month. So that's really what we intended to present on today. So, but if you have any other questions about section 7, as we're still kind of with the review period, happy to answer those questions. So I'll hand it over now to Alice with Gyra Lynch, and then the Mosley team is on as well, and Sarah Bonish with Traceries and Bike is on if we have any questions for them. Alice?
Thanks, Lauren. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Good to see you all again. As I don't want to be repetitive, but we can go in, a little bit further. So really, this is especially for RB1 phase. You've seen this before many times and not on all of our phases. And this RB1 phase you've seen 2 other times. This is just wanted to highlight our one update to our scope of work, being the new exhaust penetrations on the front and rear elevations. This again is the site that sort of bridges South Thomas Street, consisting of 5 buildings, 12 through 16. There we go. So here's some precedent images. These top 2 images are from section 1, but not these specific buildings. These are in, this is building 11, so right adjacent to building 16. I'll zoom in a little bit here so you can see There's a variety of different exhaust vents on the front facade of this building. And even larger than what we'll be installing, but there's definitely front penetrations. Important to note also these PTAC units, we, in all the phases, are going to be getting rid of those. So that's a big eyesore that we are luckily going to be infilling. These other precedent images are more similar to what we will be installing. Our brick vent will look a little different, but more similar in size. And these are from section 9 though, which is a later section, and also part of the redevelopment area. So will not remain, but a different section, different buildings, but more similar to what we would plan to install. You can see an example in a painted brick facade and also in a unpainted brick facade here. So for these next images, and this was all in the submission you all received earlier in April, but these are mock-ups that I've created just using some Bluebeam magic, I like to say. So you can see I'm showing the PTACs as infilled, but then the brick vents not even showing up very well. Excuse me. Up here's another example. And the more you zoom in, the harder it is to see. But these are just, this is just a, excuse me, copy and paste of the brick vent that we saw in the precedent images previously. So it's nothing fancy about, as Lauren mentioned, about the size of a brick face. There will be a flange, but where it's painted brick will be painted to match. And otherwise we expect them to blend in pretty seamlessly. What you can, our intention is to place them intentionally, and we'll talk more to our restrictions and sort of why we're doing this when we get into the bulkhead study, but our intention would be to place them in the most unobstructive places. So here's a couple of examples of building 12. You can see here on the key plan. This is on the northernmost side of the phase. This is the first example of where you would see it on a painted facade. This is also building 12, but sort of the inward courtyard facing facade. Again, not, this is just photoshopped here and not a professional rendering. So keep in mind, it's meant to show a painted surface. There would be a flange, but a painted vent about the size of a brick. Similar here, again, hard to see just because of the size and the scale of the photographs, but you can see them located here around the entrance and the floor above. And this one is a sort of inconvenient facade. We'll have to study it a little bit further just because of the column details. We'll have to be very strategic about the placement to put them in a way where they're not, really visible and so noticeable. Building 16, similar conditions, tucked to the sides where we can. As a reminder here, on some of these facades, we'll have the new accessible entrances on building 16. So there will be new penetrations on these front facades. Here's another accessible entrance that we're creating. Okay, so here I'm going to pass to Tom to talk to, the reason why we need to do this. And Tom, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Alice. It's pretty simple. I think these diagrams call it out pretty effectively here. We have to bring air into the mechanical system, into the mechanical units. It's a new code requirement. And we also have kitchen exhaust, which is once again a Virginia housing requirement that you cannot use a recirculating fan, but have to actually actively exhaust kitchen exhaust to the exterior. And with that, we've done a series of studies to figure out how to minimize, group, and place these openings so that they are minimally intrusive. We're proposing something called an X vent, which is, I said, it comes in masonry coursing, and it really is extremely unobtrusive. And that's really pretty much it. Like I said, we've spent a lot of time studying how we can minimize these penetrations, and also wherever we can put the vents on a secondary elevation, we've done so. But just the way the apartments stack, the bearing wall stack, some stuff's gotta go out the front, and that's what we're trying to request permission for today.
I think to this, so I flipped, I thought there was a cut sheet of the vent, which is why I skipped ahead for a second, but to the studies that you're seeing here, the yellow areas are all pretty much what we would need for bulkheads, even with the front exhausts. And the bulkheads we estimate to be about 7 feet ceiling heights, whereas the white area would be an 8-foot ceiling height. However, if we go to this next page, this is if we do not have front bulkheads, and you can see we do not have front exhaust. The bulkheads just take up a larger portion of the living area, which is the main reason to even, approach this and ask for this exception here.
And I thought we did have a cut sheet.
I know. I either have the wrong file, Sarah, or sorry, Lauren, or
yeah, I think Michael, if you could share the last.
I was just gonna say, I do have it if you want me to
Yeah, that'd be
pull up
great.
my screen. Yeah, 1 second.
And you said it reduces it from 8 feet to 7 feet in the bulkhead area
Yeah.
having to be constructed?
So it reduces the head height in the unit, which is the minimum per the building code is 7 feet. So it would be uncomfortable to have bulkheads throughout, which is why we've tried to balance here. And have them in some areas, and then open up that ceiling space for the rest of the units. And then that's the product type, right, Alice, that we would use.
Yeah, so that's the product type. It's not the right proportions. It's hard to see here, but the actuals that we would be going with would be either a 4x8 or a 4x12, depending on the purpose it's serving. So the flanged vent outlined in green on the right, or in the middle, sort of, the photograph on the right, is the general style of it, but the proportions would be inches by 8 inches or 4 inches by 12 inches. I believe it's the kitchen, when it's serving the kitchen exhaust, that's when it's the 4x12.
Correct,
Which
the
I
hybrid.
truly don't believe that's come up at all in our studies. Just again, a potential we want to be prepared for.
And then on the, Sarah, I don't know if you have the RC1 set, but we did include an updated scope of work in that submission for the Section 7 renovation. So we updated the scope of work, and the elevations were also updated to show you where exactly those brick vents will be at the sides of those 2 buildings. So we have those available if you wanted to flip through them as well. But I think that's our presentation tonight.
Yeah, let me know if you want me to pull up RC1.
If you could.
Okay, yeah, can you pull those up and then go to the elevations? And start on page 16.
Out of curiosity, if you added additional vents, could you further reduce the amount of habitable space that is brought down to 7 feet?
The question, Alice, is if we added more front facade vents or general vents in general, would we be able to reduce the bulkheads?
Not
No,
really.
I'm just looking at this. I don't know, Tom, if you have an answer. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what we tried to do is sort of, drop areas for soffits that are either over closets or over bathrooms. So not really. We've tried to sort of minimize the routing of it.
In addition to, there is a code requirement. There's a lot of these intakes and exhausts need to be separated. An intake needs to be 10 feet away from any exhaust. So that's one thing. That's one reason why we have them all kind of spread out across the unit. And additionally, any exhaust needs to be at least 3 feet from an operable window. So we have a few restrictions and kind of acrobatics to be done to that, makes things tricky as well. So we will certainly look at that, and we'll minimize, we minimize bulkheads as much as we can. But I don't think that we could make things too much better. Just typically your mechanical closet's going to be in the center of the unit. You know, you don't want it taking up like a window wall or some prime real estate. And so you generally have the to and from the mechanical closet. And then the exhaust, going straight out from there. So we'll certainly look at it, but I don't anticipate any good opportunities for that.
Just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is there?
So for ours, yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, sorry.
So here is, let me just make sure I got the first page. Yeah. So here's building 47. You can see this keynote 26 is indicating the exhaust vents. Let me know. I mean, I'm happy to kind of go through these. If there's anything in particular you all want to see, please don't hesitate. But yeah, so we have building 47. It's a very lots of angles here.
Maybe just zoom in on like one facade. I'm just kind of curious just to kind of see it like in elevation.
Yeah, let me find a good. So this in the painted elevation, I think it's I think this is a good example where you can see they're, about brick sized and painted to match.
All right, thanks. Just wanted to kind of see it in elevation.
Of course. Yeah, and let me find here, where it's a unpainted brick. It's, very similar.
Question, I would assume because it's the kitchen exhaust, it has to be that like above the window height, higher.
Because it's coming, it's up here because it's going to be run through the ceiling or above the cabinets. In the case of the kitchen, but no matter what, it'll typically be at ceiling height or in those bulkheads tight to the ceiling. And really depends on the unit layouts where the final placement is, but a lot of these unit layouts are pretty consistent building to building, so you'll see them relatively in the same spot here across the board, relative to the main building entrance.
Yeah, I just think it would be really important that like they're all, a foot above the window or
consistent that way. Yeah. So I will say the tricky part is when we get right up into the sort of the eave here, that's where it will be. I think it'll be consistent floor by floor, and vertical alignment will exist. But I can't say the relationship to the window will be exactly the same floor to floor, if that makes sense. Just because of the architecture that we're working with.
And those types of locations, that's something that we can kind of, where there are those tricky areas, and we might have options, that may be something that we can talk about administratively behind the scenes between the journalist team and me, and others. So, but I think for the purposes of tonight, we just wanted to make sure that since we had mentioned all of the vents were going to be on the facade, and now we, due to just further study, need to make adjustments, that's why we wanted to make sure that that was provided to the HLRB to get the full picture of the project.
Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts?
When will we see you again?
That's what I was wondering. I don't know. Alice, when will?
That is a great, I guess this is our RB1, our C1's our fourth use permit, right? So we have to actually do the renovations on all of these 4 phases that we've had approvals on, so or seek approvals on. Honestly, it might be a little bit before we get another phase ready. It won't be next month, as far as I'm concerned. Like, we've got a good streak going, but I guess we're gonna break it.
And I think I mentioned last time too, there's those 2 deadlines that we're working with Virginia Housing, which is the July deadline that these permits are trying to meet, and the other deadline's the December deadline. So if we did have any other renovation projects this year, that would probably come later this fall. But as Alice said, this is our 4th one that we've gotten approved, and we need to start actually renovating the buildings and moving people out, which takes up space and time. So I'm not quite quite sure when we'll be back, but.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure
would
that-
actually-
Sure that we will.
Yeah, it would probably be like a September, October, November kind of timeframe, if anything, so it'll be a few months. I hope you don't miss us too much.
We'll give you guys a break from us.
I know you want to throw Lauren a going away party, but well, she'll be back.
I know, I feel like, and I've seen all the edition before us, like we've seen all.
Yeah.
all
I'm ready to
of
move into
this.
Maywood, that's for sure.
I know, yeah.
There you go.
I know I'm not gonna know what's going on anymore, but we have appreciated y'all's time and attention to detail. I think it's July's our first permit to now having 4 done, so it's been great working with you all and getting your input and thoughts so we can have this streamlined process. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So, yeah, right. I'm just next door if you ever need me.
You know where we hang out Wednesday. at the third
That's
Wednesday.
right.
Yeah, right. Just come here and sit in for fun.
Yeah, stop by, yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you all for your
Thanks so much,
time.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks,
Good night.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening, everyone.
Bye.
We're so on schedule.
What is going on? Is there a full moon?
Actually.
Mercury in retrograde.
Mark.
We have a bit of an accident. Do we do?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so am I next on the agenda? Sorry, I was in another virtual
up.
meeting. Okay, well, let's do it.
So everybody, this next item here is the Green Valley Historic Preservation Fund grant project. This is one of our first non-capital projects that's coming to the HLRB, and presenting to us right now is Inuidun Okikoya. She is with the Green Valley Historic Preservation Project, and she'll be presenting to you all about all of the amazing historic markers that are going to be highlighted around the Green Valley community. So please go right ahead, Inuidun.
Okay, let me just, I need to log out and come back. The screen is telling me that I need to quit and reopen. So sorry about that. Let me just log out and come back.
Stop and break, not a problem.
Okay.
All right.
There's more for you.
Hopefully it's not up.
Lock out. Okay. We'll see.
I know. Hi again.
Hi, like 30 minutes. Sorry about that. Let me see if it works now. I think I needed to update or something. So what are you guys seeing on my screen?
You.
Oh,
We were
okay.
seeing the room, like the teams meeting.
Now we see you again.
Yeah.
We have the presentation too. If it's easier for one of us to share, just let us know.
Okay.
Or we have at least the markers themselves. I don't know if your presentation was more robust.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Yes.
There we go. So thank you all for your patience and for putting me last on the agenda. I am Inumiduno Bikoya, and I am a resident of Green Valley, and I am also the project manager for this Green Valley Historic Preservation Grant application. And I am here with you tonight to talk about the reasons for the grant and what we want to do as a community. So we're all about preserving our history and highlighting it here in Arlington. And we knew that having a project such as a historic preservation project would also revitalize the community and bring people together. And we also saw it as an educational opportunity, not just for young people or people within Green Valley, but for Arlington and anyone who comes to Green Valley as a whole. So this grant is to help us create sort of a repository for all of the seemingly disparate archives and media and information that we have. It's also rich, and some of it is very fragile. So we want to make sure that we can digitize it and put it all into a space where it can be accessed by everyone. So that is one of the main points. Another thing we wanted to do as part of this effort is to highlight our neighborhood points of interest. So this is part of the reason why I'm here today. So as part of the educational component and the new website with the repository, we have undertaken a branding exercise where we are creating these visually rich and branded materials to help bring together some of these elements that I mentioned. So we have some interpretive signage, we're creating guide maps, and some ground markers. So just to orient you to where Green Valley is for those who may not know. So there were quite a few Black enclaves and Black neighborhoods in Arlington up until even after the 1950s. And today, as we know, there are only 3 remaining neighborhoods that have a significant African American presence. I can't say that they're in the majority anymore like they were at some point in the past, but certainly a significant portion relative to the populations in the rest of the county. So Green Valley on the right is in the bottom, most southern part of Arlington. And this map here shows the boundaries of Green Valley. So we're at 16th Street to the north, adjacent to the Walter Reed Community Center. We are at Shirlington Park, which is here in the where my cursor is, and just to the south of that is Arlington Mill Drive, and this is 4 Mile Run. That's our boundary. And to the west, we have Walter Reed Drive here, and to the east is the Army Navy Country Club and 395. So quite a large boundary with lots of really good history that we are very proud of. So within the community, we have identified 18 historical points of interest. And of those, 13 have markers. 5 of them do not. But as you can imagine, not all markers are created equal. So we have 2 markers that have historic designations. Lomax African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church has both national and local designations. They are on the National Register of Historic Places and on the Arlington local historic. It's considered a local historic property. And on the right, Green Valley Pharmacy is considered a Arlington Local Historic District. So these are the two that have designations, and as you can see, they aren't treated the same. The one on the right is on a pedestal with more of a flat panel, and the one on the left is upright with a rectangular historical panel. So they're different. And then we have 11 other non-designated existing markers, and they vary in look and feel. And I won't go through all 11, I'll just show you some of the different ones that we have. So on the left is Shirlington Crest, which was formerly Dunbar Homes. And on the right, we have the Dr. Ronald Bruner House, which is on Glebe Road. So those are two markers. The one on the right, it's my understanding, it has been replaced. It has been, thank you. All right, so this one was not on the list for that reason, because when we started this effort, we were told that it would be replaced, and I now hear that it has been. So here are some pictures of some other markers. So we have the Mount Zion Baptist Church, the the WNOD Trail. You can see the way the signs look, and then we have Macedonia Baptist Church. So those are some of the different ones that we have. And what we wanted to do as part of this effort was to brand all of the historic designated sites and the non-historic sites, but the neighborhood points of interest. So we are intending to do that with some branding. So as you can see, we have the typology or the font that we will use, the colors that we intend to use, and then the look and feel of the panels. And we also have these QR codes that we intend to use to create some cohesion between all of the seemingly different types of markers by either one, applying these very strongly adhesive stickers to the cement, or use stenciling. We haven't worked that out yet, but that is the plan. And so each one of these will take you to a site that we're currently creating. It's under development now, but it probably takes you to the site where the actual Mount Zion Baptist Church link is. And then on the right, we have a You Are Here map that we plan to place in strategic locations and use as part of our educational materials for our walking tours and story maps and things like that. And of course, we have the logo on the bottom right. And so what we intend to do is to, through this effort, create these historic panels. So the 3 panels, not that I'm showing you tonight, this will be shown at the next meeting. I have 6 panels I need to present to you, and the 3 that I'm showing tonight are different from this one. So I just wanted to give you a feel for what we're planning to present as a whole so that you have a comprehensive view. So this is a You Are Here panel that we're proposing. And then we have these single pedestal, kind of low profile panels that we intend to use in locations. So we have 5 of these locations that aren't historically designated, or considered, they are considered neighborhood points of interest, but they do not have any markers currently associated with them. And this is one of the ones that I want to talk about tonight. And so with that, I can stop here, or we can go straight into the discussion around the one of the 3 panels. So the first one is the Chin Funeral Service. The second one is the Friendly Cab Stand. And the third one we're talking about tonight is Our Lady, Queen of Peace. So how shall I proceed?
So one of the things that we kind of highlighted, I think, to you all, to the HLRB via email, is that we were really trying to kind of get very high level suggestions for tonight. But if you did go through some of the text, which some of you already did, and thank you so much for doing your homework, we do have some text edits that we can provide you maybe later on. But we know that sometimes we can get really robust into the discussion sometimes in our HLRB meeting, very technical. And we recognize that takes a lot of people's time. So again, we wanted to see if we could try and keep it a little high level. But again, this is your meeting and you all can direct it how you want the discussion to go. So how would you all like to proceed with? Do you like maybe individually kind of go over the goal for each panel?
A summary of each panel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Sure. Absolutely. So the Chin Funeral Home, I did not show it on the map, but it is essentially on Shirlington Road, just to the east of the new Freed sculpture installation in the town square. And it has serviced the Green Valley community for nearly 8 decades or more, just a little bit over 8 decades. And we saw it as, actually, it wasn't one of the original sites that we included in the list. We quickly realized that this was one that should have been included because of the crucial role it played in helping to service African Americans who were not able to participate in other commercial establishments, not just in Arlington, but in other places. And so to do that, they provided a much needed service. And so because of that, we wanted to make sure that we honored them in a special way. And the next one is the Friendly Cab Stand, a very similar story. Friendly Cab, of course, is still in existence. Perhaps everyone does not know that. And they were very instrumental in transporting African Americans outside to places outside of Arlington because they could not be serviced for certain needs within Arlington. One in particular that I've heard most often is health care. So Friendly Cab Service did a wonderful service to the community by transporting African Americans to other hospitals in Alexandria and DC, and helped especially in the area of maternal help. So we are very grateful for that. And for that reason, we knew that they needed to be on the list. And then the third one we are presenting to you tonight is Our Lady Queen of Peace, which is a historically African Catholic church within Arlington. It was established by Black Catholics in Arlington so that they could too serve and worship in the way that they chose. And because of racial segregation, they needed to have a place where they could serve safely. And in addition to that, the church served other needs that the community had, such as providing food, shelter, and things like that in times of need. So for that reason, we thought that this one certainly should be included on the list. And those are the three.
Well, why don't we go ahead then and go to the beginning with the Chin Funeral Service panel? How is everybody feeling about the layout of how everything's looking?
I love the graphics. I'm really looking forward to seeing that map one that you're going to show in a few weeks because it looks great. I wonder if just overall, looking at the Green Valley logo and the Arlington logo, it does shift just for consistency, the suggestion, not requirement. I wonder if it would almost make sense to take, if there was maybe a way to take both logos and bring them into that green band. If maybe there's a white border that goes around the Green Valley so it pops, or you invert the Arlington, because I know it's dark on dark, to give it a little contrast. But that way you could even take on the Chin Funeral panel, make the photo a little bit bigger and just kind of balance it out just for consistency, and gives you a little bit of other flexibility on that sheet as a suggestion. But I think, I mean, overall, I like the way it's all laid out. Looks good to me.
So I want to make sure I'm articulating what you want for the logos. You're saying that the Arlington County logo should carry the same color?
No, oh, sorry, I'm not doing a great job explaining it. So that green band at the bottom of the panel.
Ah, got you. Okay, logos.
As a thought, maybe we take the Green Valley logo and the Arlington logo and put them in on the lower right hand. And if it needs a border to give it a little bit of contrast, that's fine. But just to give it
space,
some consistency.
Okay.
It's a thought.
That would be across all the markers.
Across all the markers.
Yeah.
That would be what?
It would be applied across through all of the markers.
Oh, okay, across. Got it. Okay.
I think that's a good suggestion, Alex, because then that gives you the potential to make the pictures a little bit larger on the signs, because that's valuable real estate there at the bottom.
You could spread out some of the paragraphs too on the other ones that have a little more text.
Looking at that photo, actually, the small one, I do have one question, which is the text refers to it as the Chin Baker Funeral Services, but the 2024 photo, it still just says Chin Funeral Services, and that's what the caption says. Do you know which name they trade under, or?
You know, that's a really good question because I started out with Chin Funeral Services because that's what I saw uh, in the in some older language, but then at some point it changed and all of the new references did not. So I need to ask Mr. Baker what his preference is or if they do go by a particular name and change them across the board to that.
Just to make it consistent either way.
I totally agree.
And then another consistency note, I noticed the other two have all caps for the title. And
We
it would
already,
be, yeah,
go ahead.
nice to see that.
Okay, so and I need to say that some of these changes we have already highlighted to be changed. I'm still taking all the feedback, of course, but in the interest of time and money, we made the edits or some comments to these already, and we're sending all the comments back to the designer at once. So when I come back, I fully expect that all of these comments will be reflected in the new markup.
And
So
Vivian,
thank you for that.
can you clarify, are you going to have the titles in all caps or
No.
like you have it on this one?
So it will be the way they are on the last two.
Okay, okay. Any other thoughts on this one?
I think, sorry, Michael made a good point. I just want to ask, with the overall content, staff presented it to you all a little. We're learning as we go along with this. So Inumidum provided us the panel and we worked on the text. And we then presented Inumidum the edits that staff had to the text, and we gave you all both clean versions. We just wanted to kind of ask if you all, those that did have a chance to look ahead and read it, if you felt that the direction was going okay, and if you're feeling that it's evolving in the right direction. And so we just kind of wanted to get a sense of what you thought about the content.
I think you've been adding more historical context, which I think is great. It's always good to put things in a little bit, particularly for the church one, but putting it into a bigger context of what was going on at the time. So I thought that
I
was
have to tell you though, for the church one, that one came from the church. And I will need to work with them on making these changes to make sure they're comfortable with it. And the suggestions that were made about the new images related to COVID-19, some on the committee thought that it did not accurately reflect what we were attempting to achieve with the historical panels by having images that did not reflect the people that started and lived in the community at that time.
That makes sense to me, and I think, and I know that you're working with different partners for this project, and I think that I can recognize the need to make sure that the church is comfortable with it, because since they provided you that language, so I'm glad that you're continuing to communicate with them to see what works, and knowing now what you all are hoping to achieve with making sure that focuses on the residents that are in Green Valley and how they shape that church and that congregation. That makes sense. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
For the Our Lady Queen piece, I love this photo. I wonder, are there any other photos that might include people or parishioners at the church? That might be fun to include as well, just because it makes it a little human focused.
Can you skip ahead to that one?
great. Yeah, she's there now.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, or I don't know if there are any photos of the
There
original
are.
16 founders or some of them. It would be nice to do that. And if you did end up moving the Green Valley and Arlington logos down, you would have a little bit more space to play with to add in.
Yeah, on the two that only have one picture, yeah, I think maybe two pictures would be great, if that's an option.
It is an option, and I agree.
On both, than
Mhm.
just have one now.
And this one in the friendly camera.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If there is one.
If there is one,
Yeah.
although it is called Friendly Cap, so we know the type.
Yeah.
or even like, I would be curious, like, did they pick people up from their houses, or was there like kind of a cab stand? Like an actual location, like of the business?
Let me see if there is something. I actually, the designer started out telling me that I needed a minimum of 2 pictures. So I agree. But for some reason, I was not able to get another picture here in time for his first cut. But I will continue to look because I do think that more pictures make for a better experience. So I will continue to search.
And then
I was just gonna say an advertisement could be cool too, like a newspaper advertisement as an additional.
phone book,
Or a
Yeah.
phone book
Ooh, I like
thing,
that.
where it's in like a photo, that's kind of a easier way to go sometimes.
Maybe even like a green book, like little reference to maybe, well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's many ways that you could provide some, because we recognize, we get this all the time, trying to come and get photographs that are either new, that maybe the public hasn't seen too often, that there can be other creative ways, such as taking a photograph of some type of memorabilia that focuses on maybe the company, or maybe it's a photograph of like they were saying, a former car, or there's many different ways that you could approach it.
Yeah.
And then maybe and advertisements. I know that we can get access to pretty easily newspaper advertisements sometimes, so that might be another way to go about it.
Okay.
You read my mind.
Oh.
I was going to suggest an advertisement as well. So.
Got it.
Well, I know we kind of we did a bit of jumping, but I think it's because we're all very enthusiastic about what we're seeing. We focused a little bit on the friendly cab. We mentioned a little bit about the church, and I really love the photograph on the church's website showing it's a black and white photo of an African-American woman who looks like she's holding up a shovel. So I'm wondering if it might actually be when the church was breaking ground at some point with the church that's there now. So, but I know that that can be challenging too, even though there is an existing photograph, if it will work for the graphic designer to get a good quality. We know that that can be challenging.
Yeah, we actually did find an advertisement for the, which this panel has not come before you yet. And we're having, panel hasn't come before you yet. We're having trouble with the memorabilia, but it is such a good narrative. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So I hear you, and I'll see what we can do. We do have some, but like you said, the quality isn't good. So these were the best we could find, but I have to say that I haven't exhausted all means. Like I haven't been to the library or anywhere where I could possibly find other images. This has just been through me asking people that are closer to these subjects than me.
Well, I think also with the HLRB kind of making the suggestion of trying to have more than, have at least 2 photographs on there, we can continue trying to help identify any of those photos and kind of help point where there might be some. So we can try and assist with that. And if the HLRB is comfortable with how we kind of assist in that, we can continue working behind the scenes with the Dune and the other members of the team to kind of refine that. But yeah.
If there are any other text edits that suggestions you all have, you can email that to me or Lauren, and we'll make sure to share that with you.
These look great. I'm excited to see.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Such a
Thank
rich, such a rich history too. I mean, like all the different sort of stories that are interrelated, but not really celebrated yet. Really looking forward to it all.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
So we'll see you in a few weeks again, yes?
Yes, I will be back with new material.
Well, fortunately, we have we've been able to work with the county board and county manager to allow us to get some extensions to some of the projects we really want to work with you need to be doing and make sure that, there's no stress to try and get this done by June 30th. That's a kind of arbitrary date that we use. And so we can spread it out if it's necessary. And we're doing is you're kind of working through making edits and finalizing the panels. But we should have hopefully until the end of the calendar year. So these will be coming through.
Great.
Okay.
Any other questions for us?
No.
Okay.
Great. That's it. Thanks so much for
All
being here.
right. Thank you, guys. Have a good
We're
evening.
excited
Thank you
to
very much
start.
for the opportunity. See you next time.
Night.
We're ahead.
Early.
What?
Very well done.
We already did half of the next part of the
I did
agenda.
the chair's report.
Well, I just want to say, I think it's a great idea for people to just send in minor edits, because to have, we usually have 12 people or however many discussing commas. I mean, it's just not very efficient.
Agreed,
Yeah.
yes.
We have some suggestions on how that can hopefully continue. So we will
Yeah.
possibly be contacting some of you all with some ideas that we have.
Excellent.
We just had a brief staff report. I'll go first with my section. So we have an upcoming event in partnership with public libraries, Center for Local History, and a local author, Kim O'Connell. It is a walking tour of Little Saigon in Clarendon, and it's happening on Saturday, May 4th. Registration is required, so I will follow up with an email because I have a couple other reminders for the board for where you can sign up. But the tour, I think it's 5 stops in Clarendon. It doesn't go very far. It just kind of stays around the Metro Center right there. But it's incredibly informative, and Kim is a great public speaker, and she's actually the author, or one of the authors, I guess, the author of the booklet that you all might be familiar with that has the Little Saigon history. We'll have some of those at the event too. So join us if you're able to. It's a really great event. They do it. Actually, I think last year they did it twice a year because it sells out all the time. It's very popular. So.
And there's 2 times left. Do you remember?
Yes,
10,
it's at 10, and then there's another one at 11. So the tour is about 45 minutes long. And then Kim typically brings sesame balls as a treat for everybody, and they're really good. So.
And we'll have a table to come and say hi to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. So I also wanted to share an update on staffing. So last month I revealed that our hiring process is underway. Unfortunately, the candidates that we selected did not accept our offers. And so we are recruiting again. So the advertisement hit the streets last Friday. It's going to be up for about 3.5 weeks. So if you know anyone who wants to work for a really dynamic preservation team, we'd love your recommendations. Send them to the website. They have a few weeks still to get applications in. So hopefully we have better luck in this round. Also wanted to mention, thinking ahead a little bit, in June, the HALRB meeting falls on the new county and federal holiday of Juneteenth on June 19th. Since the county building will be closed, we need to reschedule the June meeting, and we are working towards June 20th. So if you can mark your calendars, it's a Thursday, so it's 1 day later than normal. We'll continue to send reminders and mention this. So if you could mark your calendars tentatively for now, we would appreciate it. You didn't want to wait till next month to spring this on you. So if you can plan ahead now, we felt that would be helpful.
Can you change your thing? Because that's how my.
Yeah.
And I
wanted to.
I can't change it myself.
Yeah, not a problem. I was going to update the link as soon as I confirmed that other pieces that I need to confirm. But I think that's definitely going to be the date.
So there's another upcoming event I wanted to make you aware of. Saturday, May 18th, Arlington View is hosting its Neighborhood Day, and the theme is going to be all about its history. And so they're going to have, I think, some panelists. They're going to have like a little fair with different vendors and different community groups there. So if you've never been and you're curious about Arlington View, I'd encourage you to go check that out. It's an all-day event. I don't have the exact hours, but I'm sure there'll be information on their website. So think about that. And the last thing I just wanted to mention, in case you haven't, you should really go to Boston and check out the new, what was formerly the Central United Methodist Church. Then that was demolished to make room for the Boston Station site plan, which is now complete and now known as yet another name. It's called the Unity Homes at Boston. The building is completely done. APA, which is the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, had an unveiling ceremony on Monday of this week. And the Tiffany window of Christ and Blessing has been restored and is now hanging over the Robert Ball family burial ground. So if you have not gone to see it yet, please go. We're working with the consultant team now to adjust some of the lighting to make sure that the window shines in all the appropriate ways and times of day and night. But if you haven't seen it, we would highly recommend you go check it out. And the HLRB played a big part, as you recall, in that site plan. And our team worked very hard behind the scenes on everything related to public art, who are our partners for the window restoration. So we're really proud of it. So, got it.
Cool, yeah.
Oh, and that is everything. And we are early.
Wow.
Oh.
Might not happen next month, but tonight we were.
I'm just sort of street.
Yes, great.
Continue.
Continue this exactly.
I don't know, we have a lot of projects.
Great snack.
All right, that's it. We're doing.
And thank you all so much for coming and emailing and
Letting us know. So helpful.
And also writing down any notes and